Before we begin, please note that the information provided in this presentation is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as and shall not be understood or construed as financial, legal, or tax advice. The content is of a general nature and is not specific to you or anyone else. Imagine it's 3 p.m. on a Friday. You get an alert. The multi-million-dollar deal you've been chasing for 6 months in another state is suddenly falling apart. The client is having second thoughts. They need a face-to-face meeting, a final reassurance first thing Monday morning, or they're walking. You check the commercial flights. Everything is sold out for the weekend. The earliest flight that gets you there is Monday at noon, 3 hours too late. You feel that sinking pit in your stomach as you realize you're about to lose because of a flight schedule. Now imagine your competitor gets the same call. But instead of searching kayak, they make one phone call. 90 minutes later, their executive team is walking across the tarmac at a small private airfield, climbing aboard a jet. They spend the flight finalizing their presentation in a quiet, confidential cabin. They land, get a full night's sleep, walk into that Monday morning meeting fresh and prepared, and they close the deal. The deal that should have been yours. This isn't a scene from a movie. This exact scenario, in thousands of different variations, is playing out across America every single day. And it's why, in the last few years, the use of private aviation for business has exploded. We're not just talking about the titans of industry on the Fortune 500 list. We're talking about mid-sized manufacturing companies, fast-growing tech startups, and regional construction firms. They've discovered a powerful secret. For a certain type of business, flying commercial isn't saving money. It's costing them a fortune. In this video, we are going to pull back the curtain on the real, hard-nosed business case for private aviation. We're going to dismantle the myth that it's just about luxury and ego. This is about math. It's about strategy. It's about gaining an almost unfair competitive advantage in a world that moves faster than ever. We'll break down the 5 critical factors that are convincing thousands of American CEOs and entrepreneurs to ditch the first-class cabin for the private charter. By the end of this, you will understand not just why they're doing it, but how it generates a tangible return on investment that can fundamentally change the trajectory of a company. Now I know what you're thinking. This is for billionaires. My company can't afford to buy a $50 million Gulfstream. And 10 years ago you'd have been right. But the entire industry has been radically transformed. The rise of on-demand charters, jet card programs, and fractional ownership has put private air travel within reach of a much broader range of businesses. You don't have to own the plane to command the plane. And that simple fact has changed everything. So let's start with the single most valuable, non-renewable resource in business: time. We all know the phrase time is money, but business leaders who use private aviation understand it on a profoundly different level. They don't just save time, they manipulate it. They practice what can only be described as time arbitrage. Let's be brutally honest about the true cost of commercial air travel. A 2-hour flight is a lie. It's a marketing fantasy. The reality is a punishing 6 to 8 hour gauntlet. First, you have to drive an hour, maybe more, to a major hub airport that's nowhere near your actual office or home. Then you pay a small fortune to park a mile away and wait for a shuttle. You navigate the terminal, wait in line to check a bag, and then you enter the security theater. Laptops out, shoes off, belts off. You finally get through, only to sit at a crowded gate for an hour, trying to find a power outlet while listening to endless boarding announcements. Then you board, cram your bag into an overhead bin, and squeeze into a seat where you can barely open your laptop. The flight itself is 2 hours of intermittent Wi-Fi, engine noise, and zero privacy. You can't have a confidential phone call. You can't review sensitive documents. You can't strategize with your team. It's dead time. Upon landing, you taxi for 20 minutes, deplane, fight your way through the terminal, wait another 30 minutes at baggage claim, and then stand in yet another line for a rental car. That 2-hour flight just stole an entire business day from you. A day you can never get back. Now let's look at the private travel equivalent. You work a full morning at your office. Your car drives you not to a massive international airport, but to one of over 5,000 smaller, local executive airports in the US. 10 times the number served by commercial airlines. You drive directly onto the tarmac, right up to the aircraft. Your luggage is taken from the trunk and put straight onto the plane. There are no lines. There is no TSA. You walk onto the jet and 5 to 15 minutes later you are in the air. The 2-hour flight is actually a 2-hour flight. Or more accurately, it's a 2-hour fully productive, secure mobile office. Suddenly, the cabin becomes a boardroom in the sky. Imagine 4 of your top executives. On a commercial flight, they're scattered across the plane, unable to collaborate. On a private jet, they are sitting face-to-face around a table. They can speak freely about company strategy, financials, and the upcoming negotiation. They can whiteboard ideas. They can rehearse their presentation. They can make confidential calls. That travel time has been transformed from a liability into a high-value asset. The work they accomplish in those 2 hours might be the very thing that wins the deal. It's no longer a travel expense. It's a strategic investment in preparation and performance. But the real superpower of time arbitrage comes from creating itineraries that are physically impossible with the commercial airline system. The hub-and-spoke model is designed for the airline's convenience, not yours. It forces you to fly from a hub to a hub, often with a connection, just to get to a city that might be a short direct flight away. With a private jet, you operate on a point-to-point network of your own design. Consider this. A manufacturing CEO based in Chicago needs to visit a supplier in Grand Rapids, Michigan, inspect a new plant in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and have a dinner meeting with a key distributor in Columbus, Ohio. Using commercial airlines, this is a grueling 2- or 3-day trip with multiple connections, hotel stays, and hours of wasted time in airports. It's so inefficient that it probably wouldn't even happen. With a private aircraft, that CEO can leave Chicago at 8 a.m., finish the meeting in Grand Rapids by 10:30, be on the ground in Fort Wayne before noon for a 2-hour site tour, land in Columbus by 4 p.m. for their dinner meeting, and still be back in their own bed in Chicago that same night. They have compressed a 3-day trip into a single highly productive 12-hour workday. They have effectively multiplied their presence and their impact. What is the value of a CEO being able to do the work of 3 days in one? What is the value of your top sales team visiting 3 high-priority clients in 1 day instead of 1? The return on investment isn't just in dollars saved on hotels. It's in the velocity of the business itself. It's the ability to seize opportunities, solve problems, and build relationships at a speed your competitors simply cannot match. This isn't about luxury. It's a weapon, a tool for compressing time and amplifying results. And yet, this incredible power to manipulate time is only the first piece of the puzzle. The true strategic advantage goes even deeper. It's about more than just speed. It's about access. It's about getting to places and people that are completely off-limits to the rigid network of commercial airlines, unlocking a hidden geography of American business that your competition doesn't even know exists. Think about the map of the United States. Not the political map, but the economic one. Where are the factories, the data centers, the new energy projects, the agricultural hubs? Now overlay the map of commercial airline routes. You'll see a massive disconnect. The commercial system is built on a hub-and-spoke model, designed to move large numbers of people between a few dozen major cities. In the US, there are over 5,000 public-use airports. Commercial airlines, however, serve fewer than 500 of them. That means 90% of the country's airfields, and the communities and industries they serve, are effectively invisible to traditional business travel. This isn't an inconvenience. It's a strategic blind spot. Your competitor, stuck in the commercial system, sees the country through a keyhole. They can get to New York, to LA, to Chicago. But can they get to the new manufacturing plant in Ames, Iowa, to personally oversee a critical production run? Or to the potential acquisition target headquartered in Bend, Oregon, for a discreet face-to-face meeting before the deal goes public? For them, a trip like that is a logistical nightmare. It's a full day of travel, involving a flight to a major hub like Des Moines or Portland, followed by a 3-hour rental car journey. The return trip is just as brutal. A 1-hour meeting ends up consuming 2, sometimes 3 full days of a key executive's time. But for a business leveraging private aviation, that map looks entirely different. Those 5,000 airports are all potential destinations. Suddenly, the factory in Ames isn't a 2-day ordeal. It's a direct 2-hour flight. The meeting in Bend isn't a cross-country trek. It's a simple morning trip, with the executive back in their home office by late afternoon. This isn't just about saving time. This is about operating on a different plane of reality, one where geography is no longer the primary constraint on opportunity. It's the ability to be physically present where it matters most, when it matters most, regardless of where a commercial airline is willing to fly. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you're the CEO of a fast-growing tech firm. A crucial, time-sensitive opportunity emerges. You need to secure a new round of funding, inspect a potential new facility, and solidify a partnership with a key supplier. all within 48 hours to beat a competitor's offer. The problem? The venture capitalists are in Silicon Valley. The facility is in a small town in rural Texas, and the supplier's headquarters are in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Using commercial airlines, this trip is functionally impossible. The best-case scenario involves a complex web of connecting flights, multiple overnight stays, and hours spent driving rental cars on unfamiliar highways. You might make it to one, maybe two of the locations. The entire itinerary would stretch across 4 or 5 days. By then, the momentum is lost. The competitor has moved in. The opportunity is gone. You've been defeated not by a better product or a smarter strategy, but by logistics. Now let's run the same scenario with a private jet. Your day starts at dawn. You and your key team members board a jet at an executive airport near your home base. There are no lines, no TSA, no waiting at a crowded gate. You take off within minutes. The cabin is a secure private office. During the flight to Silicon Valley, you're not crammed in a middle seat trying to work on a tiny laptop. You're holding a final strategy session with your CFO, refining the pitch deck, and preparing for the meeting. You are working at peak efficiency. You land at a small airport just minutes from the VC's office, bypassing the chaos of San Francisco Airport. You walk off the plane into a prearranged car and straight into the meeting. You nail the pitch. 2 hours later, you're back on the plane. As you take off for Texas, lunch is served. The conversation isn't small talk. It's a debrief of the VC meeting and a prep session for the facility inspection. You're using every single minute productively. You land at a municipal airport in Texas, literally a 5-minute drive from the facility. You conduct your inspection, meet the local team, and get the critical information you need. By late afternoon, you're airborne again, headed for Fayetteville. During this leg of the journey, you're on a satellite phone call with your legal team, discussing the terms from the VC and the observations from the site visit. You're making decisions in real time, fueled by direct, first-hand information. You touch down in Arkansas for a dinner meeting with the supplier, sealing the partnership with a handshake. You board the jet one last time, and while you fly home, you and your team draft the press release announcing the new funding and expansion. You land back at your home airport before midnight. In less than 18 hours, you have accomplished what would have been impossible commercially. You haven't just saved time. You have compressed a week of high-stakes work into a single decisive day. This isn't a luxury. This is a weapon. It's the ability to manipulate time and distance in your favor, creating a velocity of execution that your competition simply cannot match. While they're still booking their flight to a hub airport, you've already closed the deal. This concept extends far beyond blockbuster deals. It's about agility. When a crisis erupts, a supply chain failure, a critical equipment breakdown at a remote site, a major client threatening to walk away, the response time is everything. A commercial itinerary means waiting. Waiting for the next available flight. Waiting through a layover. Waiting for a rental car. It's a passive reactive posture. Private aviation enables an active, immediate response. The leadership team can be in the air within an hour, flying directly to the heart of the problem. That physical presence is invaluable. It demonstrates commitment to the client. It allows for on-the-ground assessment and decision-making that is impossible over a video call. It calms nerves, restores confidence, and turns a potential disaster into a demonstration of your company's resilience and dedication. You can't put a price on that. And the productivity gains are not just for the executives on board. Think about the ripple effect. When the C-suite can solve a problem in one day instead of being out of the office for 3, they are back at headquarters, available to lead, to mentor, and to steer the rest of the company. Their most valuable resource, their attention, is conserved and focused where it needs to be, rather than being squandered in airport terminals and hotel rooms. The entire organization runs more efficiently because its leadership isn't held hostage by an airline schedule. But let's address the elephant in the room. This all sounds incredibly, prohibitively expensive. The stuff of Fortune 50 companies and mega-billionaires. For a mid-sized business or a growing startup, isn't this just a fantasy? For decades, the answer would have been yes. The only way to access this power was through outright ownership of a multi-million-dollar aircraft, a cost that was simply out of reach for almost everyone. But that's the old story. The entire landscape of private aviation has been radically transformed. The very models of access and affordability have been broken apart and reassembled in ways that are putting this strategic tool into the hands of a much wider range of businesses. The real secret isn't just why more businesses are choosing to fly private. It's how they are managing to do it without breaking the bank. And the answer is changing the calculus of business competition across America. The first thing we have to do is completely demolish a myth. The myth that flying private means you personally own a $60 million Gulfstream G650 with your initials stitched into the leather seats. For a tiny fraction of a percent of users, that's true. But for the vast and rapidly growing majority of American businesses leveraging private aviation, that image is as outdated as a flip phone. Thinking you have to own a jet to fly on one is like thinking you have to build a Four Seasons hotel just to stay in a nice suite for a weekend. The revolution isn't in aircraft manufacturing. It's in aircraft access. The game changed when the industry shifted from selling a product, the jet, to selling a service, the flight hour. And this one shift created a ladder of access, with rungs for businesses of all different sizes and needs. Let's start with the first major rung on that ladder, the one that truly cracked open the market for serious high-frequency business travel: fractional ownership. Imagine you're the CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company based in Ohio. You have 3 plants, one in Ohio, one in North Carolina, and a new one you just acquired in Texas. Your executive team needs to be at all 3 locations constantly. They're spending entire days battling commercial airports, driving 2 hours to the hub, wading through security, dealing with inevitable delays and cancellations, then flying into another massive hub and driving another 2 hours to the plant. They're losing a full day of productivity on each end of every trip. You do the math and it's horrifying. Your most valuable people are spending a third of their work lives in transit lounges and rental cars. You need a solution, but buying a $20 million jet is out of the question. It's not just the purchase price. It's the pilots, the maintenance, the hangar space, the insurance. It's a logistical and financial nightmare. This is where fractional ownership comes in. Pioneers like NetJets and FlexJet looked at this exact problem and said, what if you didn't have to buy the whole plane? What if you could just buy a slice of it? It works like this: you buy a share, say a 1/16 share of a specific aircraft. That purchase doesn't give you a key to a plane with your name on it. Instead, it gives you a right. The right to a certain number of flight hours per year, typically around 50 hours for a 1/16 share. You also pay a monthly management fee that covers all the indirect costs, the pilots, the hangars, the insurance, and then you pay a direct hourly fee for the time you're actually in the air. Suddenly, the calculus for our Ohio CEO changes completely. The massive, prohibitive capital expense of buying a jet is slashed by a factor of 16. The logistical headache of managing a flight department vanishes. It's all handled by the fractional company. All she has to do is make a phone call. She can have a jet ready for her team with as little as 4 to 6 hours notice. Guaranteed. Her team can leave their Ohio headquarters in the morning, have a full day of meetings at the North Carolina plant, fly to the Texas plant for an evening dinner with the management team there, and be home in their own beds that same night. What used to be a grueling 3-day ordeal is now a single hyper-productive day. The aircraft is always the same type, the pilots are trained to the highest standards, and the service is impeccable. It's the consistency and reliability of ownership, without the crippling cost and complexity. This isn't a luxury. For this company, it's a competitive weapon. But what if your travel needs aren't that predictable? What if you don't fly 50 hours a year every year? What if you fly 30 hours one year and 15 the next? The multi-year commitment of a fractional share might be too rigid. This brings us to the next rung on the ladder, a model that has seen explosive growth: the jet card. Think of it as the ultimate debit card for private air travel. You're not buying a piece of a plane, you're pre-purchasing flight time. A typical jet card program might have you buy a card for 25 hours of flight time on a light jet. You pay a single upfront fee. That's it. Now, for the next 12 or 24 months, you have 25 hours of private flight in your pocket. The magic of most of these card programs is the locked-in, fixed hourly rate. It doesn't matter if you're flying on a Tuesday in February or the day before Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter if you book 2 weeks in advance or the day before. Your hourly rate is fixed. This completely eliminates the volatility of the charter market and provides absolute budget certainty. Consider a commercial real estate developer based in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's constantly chasing deals across the Southwest, looking at a parcel of land in a small town outside of Salt Lake City, checking on a construction site in a suburb of Denver, meeting with investors in San Diego. These trips pop up with little notice. He can't predict his travel schedule a month in advance. For him, a jet card is the perfect instrument. A deal comes up in Utah. He makes one call. A car picks him up at his office, drives him onto the tarmac, and he's in the air within 15 minutes. He flies directly to a small municipal airport just miles from the site, an airport that no commercial airline serves. He evaluates the land, meets with local officials, and is back in Scottsdale in time for dinner with his family. The time from decision to execution is compressed from days to mere hours. This speed allows him to evaluate more deals, close them faster, and ultimately outmaneuver his competitors who are still stuck trying to find a connecting flight on Expedia. The Jet Card gives him the power of a private flight department without any of the long-term asset ownership or management responsibilities. This brings us to the most accessible, most flexible, and fastest-growing segment of the market: on-demand charter. If fractional ownership is like a timeshare and a Jet Card is like a debit card, on-demand charter is the Uber of the skies. It's pure pay-as-you-go private aviation. You have a specific trip you need to make from point A to point B on a specific date. You go to a charter broker or use a digital marketplace, and you book that one specific flight. There are no upfront costs, no membership fees, no long-term commitments. You pay for the trip and that's it. This is the entry point for thousands of businesses. Let's say a crisis erupts. A critical piece of machinery has failed at a client's factory in rural Arkansas, and the entire production line is down. Every hour of downtime is costing your client hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have a team of 4 specialist engineers in Chicago who can fix it, but the nearest commercial airport is a 3-hour drive away, and the next available flight isn't until tomorrow morning. By the time they get there, your client will have lost millions and, more importantly, will have lost all faith in your company. With on-demand charter, the problem is solved in minutes. You book a light jet. Within 2 hours, your team of 4 engineers and their specialized equipment are taking off from a small executive airport in Chicago. They fly directly to a tiny airstrip just 10 minutes from the factory, an airport they didn't even know existed. They land, fix the machine, and are back in the air before the end of the business day. You've just turned a multi-million-dollar catastrophe and a potential loss of your biggest client into a legendary story of customer service. The cost of that charter flight, maybe $10,000 or $15,000, is a rounding error compared to the value you just created. The beauty of the charter market is its sheer scale and variety. Need to fly 2 people for a short hop? There's an efficient turboprop or a very light jet. Need to fly a dozen people across the country? There's a heavy jet with a full galley and a flight attendant. You get to choose the exact right tool for the exact right job every single time. And the rise of technology with apps and websites that provide instant quotes from hundreds of operators has made the process more transparent and competitive than ever before. What the smartest businesses are now realizing is that these models aren't mutually exclusive. They don't just pick one. They build a portfolio of private aviation solutions. The CEO, with her predictable, high-stakes travel between corporate offices, might be best served by a fractional share. The senior sales team, with their more varied but still frequent travel, might operate off a 50-hour jet card. And for those one-off emergencies or unique opportunities like flying the whole team to a company retreat, they use on-demand charter. It's about strategically deploying capital and resources in the most efficient way possible. They're not just buying flights, they're buying time, flexibility, and productivity. They have unlocked the ability to treat distance not as an obstacle, but as a strategic variable they can control. So the how is no longer a mystery. It's a sophisticated, multi-layered ecosystem of access. But understanding these financial models is only half the story, because the real earth-shattering impact of this trend isn't just about saving a few hours on a travel day. It's about what that saved time allows a business to do. It's about the deals that get done in the cabin, the relationships that are built face-to-face, and the opportunities that are seized while the competition is still waiting to board. It's about the discovery of a hidden currency in business, an asset more valuable than cash itself. And mastering that currency is what truly separates the winners from everyone else. That currency is time, but not time as you see it on a clock. Not the 60 seconds in a minute or the 24 hours in a day. That's the time everyone gets. The currency of the truly successful is different. It's leveraged time. It's elastic time. It's time that can be compressed, controlled, and deployed like a strategic asset. Commercial air travel forces every business, from a 2-person startup to a Fortune 500 giant, to operate on the same broken timeline. It's a great equalizer, but in the worst possible way. It drags everyone down to the lowest common denominator of efficiency. You are on their schedule, you are subject to their delays, you are confined by their routes. Your most valuable asset, the time of your key decision makers, is surrendered the moment you book a commercial ticket. Think about the classic business phrase, "Time is money." It's a profound understatement. It's wrong. Money can be lost and earned back. You can get a loan, you can raise capital, you can recover from a bad quarter. But time? Once a minute is gone, it is gone forever. It is the only truly non-renewable resource in business. The real equation isn't that time is money. It's that time is the raw material from which money is made. And the quality of that raw material matters. Time spent in a TSA line is low-grade, useless material. Time spent stuck in a middle seat, trying to review a sensitive document on a laptop while the person next to you watches a movie, is contaminated material. Time spent waiting for a delayed connection in a crowded airport lounge is wasted material. Private aviation is about fundamentally changing the quality of that raw material. It's about converting previously useless hours into the highest grade, most productive time imaginable. It's about transforming a liability, travel time, into a powerful asset. To understand this, let's run a scenario. Imagine you're the CEO of a fast-growing tech firm based in Austin, Texas. A critical opportunity has emerged. You need to meet with a potential major investor in Omaha, Nebraska, finalize a manufacturing detail with a partner in Wichita, Kansas, and rally your new sales team in Denver, Colorado. These meetings must happen in person, and they must happen within 48 hours to fend off a competitor. Let's map this out commercially. Day 1. You wake up at 4 a.m. to catch the first flight out of Austin. It connects through Dallas. You land in Omaha around noon, assuming no delays. You're already tired. You grab a rental car, fight traffic, and get to your meeting by 2 p.m. The meeting goes well, but your mind is already on the next leg. You finish, head back to the airport, and catch an evening flight to Wichita, which also has a connection. You finally check into your hotel in Wichita around 10 p.m., completely drained. You've spent an entire day to accomplish one 3-hour meeting. Day 2. You have your morning meeting in Wichita. Then it's back to the airport. The flight options to Denver are limited. The best you can do gets you there late in the afternoon. Your team meeting is rushed, your energy is low, and your impact is diminished. You finally get on a red-eye flight home, landing back in Austin after midnight, having spent 2 full, grueling days away from your headquarters, your family, and your core responsibilities. The total cost isn't just the price of 3 commercial flights, 2 hotel rooms, and rental cars. The true cost is your degraded performance, your exhaustion, and the 2 days of lost productivity where you couldn't effectively run your company. Now, let's rewind and run the same scenario with a private charter. Day 1. You and your CFO wake up at a normal hour. Your car pulls up to the private terminal in Austin at 8:15 a.m. for an 8:30 a.m. departure. There are no lines, no security theater. You step out of the car and onto the jet. The moment the door closes, the cabin becomes your office. You and your CFO spend the 90-minute flight to Omaha conducting a final, confidential strategy session for the investor meeting. You land, and a prearranged car is waiting on the tarmac. You are at your meeting by 10:30 a.m. Sharp, focused, and perfectly prepared. The meeting is a home run. You're back at the airport by 2 p.m. During the 45-minute flight to Wichita, you eat a catered lunch while debriefing the first meeting and preparing for the second. You land in Wichita, nail the manufacturing meeting, and are back in the air by 5 p.m. On the 1-hour flight to Denver, your team uses the onboard Wi-Fi to send updated projections to the investor from the first meeting, striking while the iron is hot. You land in Denver and host a productive, high-energy dinner with your sales team. By 9 p.m., you're on the jet, heading home. You walk through your front door in Austin before 11 p.m., ready for a full, productive day at the office tomorrow. 1 day versus 2. 3 successful meetings in under 15 hours. No hotel costs. No wasted time. No exhaustion. Which CEO is going to win? Which company is going to grow faster? It's not a fair fight. The private jet didn't just save time. It created opportunity. It allowed for a level of strategic agility that is physically impossible with the commercial airline system. This is the core of the value proposition. The aircraft itself is not the product. The product is control. The product is efficiency. The product is a mobile environment engineered for peak performance. The cabin of a private jet is a sanctuary of productivity. Think about the most sensitive conversations in business. A merger negotiation. A discussion about a key executive's future. A strategy to outmaneuver a rival. Where can those conversations happen? The boardroom is secure but stationary. An office can be bugged. A phone call can be intercepted. On a commercial flight, it's unthinkable. You're surrounded by strangers. The executive from your biggest competitor could be sitting in the row behind you. But in the cabin of a private jet, at 40,000 feet, you have a perfectly secure, confidential space. A flying vault. This allows for a continuous workflow that is a game changer. A team can strategize all the way to a negotiation, step off the plane, and execute. The moment they get back on board, they can debrief, analyze, and plan their next move while the details are still fresh. There is no friction, no pause in the strategic process. That travel time, which is a debilitating cost for their competitors, has been weaponized into a competitive advantage for them. So when people look at the cost of a charter $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000, they're often asking the wrong question. The question isn't, can we afford this? The question is, what is the cost of not doing this? What is the cost of your top executive team spending 12 hours in transit for a 2-hour meeting? Calculate their fully loaded salaries, and you'll find that the cost of their unproductive time alone can be staggering. What is the opportunity cost of a deal that goes sour because your team was exhausted and outmaneuvered by a better rested, better prepared competitor? That could be a multi-million-dollar mistake. What is the value of closing a deal 2 days earlier, allowing you to start generating revenue or integrating a new technology ahead of schedule? Suddenly, the charter fee doesn't look like an expense. It looks like an investment with a potentially massive and immediate return. It's an investment in a tool that allows a company's most valuable assets, its leaders, to perform at their absolute peak, regardless of geography. It's about understanding that the ability to be in the right place at the right time with the right team in the right state of mind is not a luxury. In today's hyper-competitive world, it's a fundamental requirement for winning. And it opens up a map of possibilities that simply doesn't exist for those tethered to the old way of travel. This new map reveals that the most valuable destinations aren't always the ones with the biggest airports. They're the locations of opportunity. A new factory in rural Ohio, a key supplier in a small Texas town, a potential client in a city that commercial airlines have all but abandoned. For most businesses, these are logistical black holes, surrounded by hours of driving, connecting flights, and wasted time. For a business with access to private aviation, they are simply pins on a map, directly accessible, ready to be captured. But the true strategic advantage goes far beyond just reaching remote locations. It's about understanding the unseen return on investment. When a company's leadership looks at the cost of a private charter, they often compare it to the price of a first-class ticket. And on that basis alone, it seems extravagant. But this is a rookie mistake. It's like comparing the cost of a scalpel to the cost of a butter knife. They both cut, but one is designed for precision, speed, and high-stakes operations where failure is not an option. The real comparison isn't the ticket price. The real comparison is the cost of a lost opportunity, the cost of a failed negotiation, the cost of a competitor getting there first. What is the price tag on that? Imagine a scenario. A mid-sized tech firm in California is on the verge of acquiring a smaller, innovative company in Idaho that holds a patent critical to their future growth. The deal is worth $200 million, but it's getting shaky. The smaller company's board is getting cold feet, and a larger, more aggressive competitor has started sniffing around. The CEO, let's call him Alex, knows he needs to get his key team, his CFO and lead engineer, in front of that board in person within 48 hours to salvage the deal. The target company is located an hour-and-a-half drive from Boise, the nearest major airport. The commercial option looks like this: 3 separate first-class tickets, a flight from San Jose to Denver, a 2-hour layover, then another flight to Boise. They'll land late in the evening, exhausted. They'll stay in a hotel, drive to the meeting the next morning, and try to perform at their peak while still jet-lagged and disconnected. The entire process will consume the better part of 2 full business days. 2 days where their bigger competitor, who isn't constrained by airline schedules, can make their move. And that's exactly what happens. While Alex's team is navigating TSA and waiting at the gate, their competitor charters a jet. They fly directly into a small executive airport, just 20 minutes from the target company's headquarters. They are in and out in 5 hours. They meet the board, tour the facility, and are back in their own office by the end of the day. By the time Alex's team arrives, the psychological landscape has shifted. They are no longer the primary suitor. They are the second option. They've been outmaneuvered. The deal is lost. The cost wasn't the price of 3 first-class tickets. The cost was $200 million in future value, plus the humiliation of being beaten by a faster, more agile opponent. Now let's replay that scenario. Alex sees the competitor circling and understands the game has changed. He doesn't book a flight. He books an asset. A private jet is scheduled to be on the tarmac in 3 hours. His team doesn't meet at the airport. They meet at a private terminal, a quiet, civilized building where there are no lines, no crowds, and no security theater. They board the aircraft in minutes. The moment those doors close, the jet becomes a secure mobile boardroom. This is perhaps the single most misunderstood benefit of private aviation. On a commercial flight, even in first class, a confidential conversation is impossible. The person in the next seat, the flight attendant, anyone walking by, they are all potential security risks. Sensitive financial data, negotiation strategies, personnel details, you can't discuss any of it. You're forced into a state of suspended productivity. But in the private cabin, the real work begins. Alex and his team spread their documents out on the table. They connect to secure Wi-Fi. For the next 2 hours, they conduct a full-scale pre-mortem of the meeting. They role-play the negotiation, they fine-tune their financial offer, and they strategize without any fear of being overheard. They aren't losing time to travel. They are converting it into the most focused preparation time imaginable. The travel isn't an obstacle to the work. It is the work. They fly directly to that same small executive airport, bypassing Boise entirely. They land refreshed, aligned, and operating at 100%. They step off the plane and into a prearranged car, arriving at the meeting not as weary travelers, but as a formidable unified force. They project confidence, seriousness, and respect for the other party's time. They are sending a powerful nonverbal signal. This deal is so important to us, we have eliminated every possible barrier to be here with you today. The meeting is a success. They not only address the board's concerns, but they build genuine rapport. And here is the masterstroke. Instead of a long, awkward drive back to a hotel, Alex makes an offer. Why don't you and your chairman fly back with us to San Jose? We'll have dinner at my club, and you can be back on a flight first thing in the morning on us. The chairman agrees. On the flight back, in that same secure private environment, the deal is cemented. The conversation flows freely. Trust is built. By the time they land, they aren't just business partners, they are allies. The deal is saved. In fact, it's stronger than ever. The total cost of that charter flight might have been $30,000. But it didn't cost the company $30,000. It made the company $200 million. That is the unseen ROI. This isn't just about M&A deals. It applies to every critical function of a business. A sales team trying to close a landmark contract. Engineers needing to get to a malfunctioning plant to prevent a $1 million a day shutdown. A leadership team needing to visit multiple cities in one day for a capital-raising roadshow. A feat that is physically impossible using commercial airlines. In each case, the calculus is the same. The aircraft is not a perk. It is a tool. It's a time machine that compresses weeks of logistical planning into a single efficient day. It's a secure communications hub that protects a company's most valuable secrets. And it is a powerful instrument of business diplomacy, demonstrating a level of seriousness and agility that leaves the competition grounded at the gate. This level of strategic advantage seems reserved for the titans of industry, the megacorporations with their own flight departments. But what if I told you the keys to this kingdom are more accessible than you've ever imagined? The real revolution isn't just why businesses are flying private. It's how. For decades, the answer to that question was brutally simple. You bought the plane. You wrote a check with more zeros than a lottery ticket, hired a flight crew, paid for hangar space, maintenance, insurance. You basically started a miniature airline just for your company. An operational and financial fortress, so imposing that only the absolute titans of industry could even dream of scaling its walls. This model still exists, of course, for the Fortune 50s of the world. But for everyone else, for the rapidly growing mid-market companies, the successful startups, and the savvy entrepreneurs, the landscape has fractured. It's shattered into a spectrum of access, creating on-ramps for businesses that would have been laughed out of the hangar just 20 years ago. This is the new playbook. The first, and perhaps most revolutionary step away from sole ownership is a model called fractional ownership. Think of it like a hyper-exclusive, high-performance timeshare for the skies. Instead of buying a whole Gulfstream G654, say $65 million, a company buys a share of it. Maybe a 1/16th share, which is the typical minimum. That share doesn't just grant you part ownership of one specific aircraft. It gives you access to an entire fleet of identical jets. Your 1/16th share translates directly into a set number of flight hours per year, usually around 50. You call the provider, say NetJets or FlexJet, two of the giants in this space, and you tell them you need a plane in Teterboro tomorrow morning to fly to Van Nuys. They guarantee it will be there. The beauty of this model is that it provides most of the benefits of whole ownership without the soul-crushing logistical headaches. You don't manage the pilots. You don't schedule the maintenance. You don't worry about FAA compliance or international permits. You just pay two things: the initial acquisition cost for your share, and a fixed monthly management fee that covers all those indirect costs, from pilot salaries to hangar fees. Then, when you fly, you pay a fixed, occupied hourly rate. It's predictable. It's scalable. A company knows exactly what its aviation budget will be for the year. The downside? Still a massive commitment. You're typically locked into a 5-year contract, and even a small share in a light jet can represent a 7-figure initial investment. It's a brilliant solution, but it's still a solution for companies with consistent, high-volume travel needs and very deep pockets. But what if your travel needs are consistent but not that consistent? What if a 5-year, multi-million-dollar commitment is still too steep? This is where the game really started to change for a much broader segment of American business. Enter the jet card. If fractional ownership is a timeshare, a jet card is the world's most exclusive debit card. Companies prepay for a block of flight time, typically in 25-hour increments on a specific category of aircraft, a light jet, a mid-sized jet, and so on. You pay a lump sum up front, and that money sits in your account. Every time you fly, the hours are deducted. It's that simple. Providers like Sentient Jet, which pioneered the jet card model, offered something radical: guaranteed availability with as little as 24 hours notice, at a fixed, all-inclusive hourly rate. This was a bombshell. Suddenly, a business didn't need to worry about the wild price swings of the charter market. They knew that a flight from Chicago to Miami would cost the exact same on a Tuesday in February as it would on the Friday before a holiday weekend. This level of predictability was a game-changer for financial planning. It allowed a chief financial officer to budget for private travel with the same certainty as they would for office rent. There's no long-term asset purchase, no 5-year lock-in. You use your 25 hours, and you can either reload the card or walk away. This model blew the doors open for thousands of businesses, giving them a taste of the efficiency and flexibility of private aviation without the long-term, asset-heavy burden of ownership. But the revolution didn't stop there. For the ultimate in flexibility, for the business that needs to be in Des Moines on Tuesday and Dubai on Friday, for the one-off critical mission, there's the purest, most accessible form of private travel: on-demand charter. This is the pay-as-you-go model. There are no upfront costs, no membership fees, no long-term commitments whatsoever. You need a plane for a specific trip, you call a charter broker or use a booking app, and you book it. It is, in essence, the Uber Black for the skies. This is the entry point for the vast majority of new business users. A tech company might need to fly its team of engineers to a client site to fix a critical server issue, and they need to be there now. A law firm might need to fly its partners to a last-minute deposition across the country. In these scenarios, buying a 25-hour jet card doesn't make sense. They just need one flight for one mission. On-demand charter provides the ultimate freedom. You can choose the exact aircraft that's perfect for the trip. Need to take 12 people? Charter a Challenger 605. Just 2 executives on a short hop? A Phenom 100 will do. You pay only for what you use when you use it. The trade-off, of course, is price volatility and availability. That last-minute flight to Miami before the holiday weekend? The price could be astronomical if you can even find a plane. You're playing the open market, and prices are dictated by pure supply and demand. So you see, it's not one single key to the kingdom anymore. It's a whole ring of them, each designed to unlock a different door. A company can now perfectly match its aviation solution to its specific mission profile and financial structure. The annual executive retreat to Scottsdale for the whole leadership team? Charter a larger jet for that one-off trip. The regional sales director who needs to visit 3 different cities in the Midwest every month? A 25-hour jet card on a light jet makes perfect financial sense. The CEO of a global firm who is constantly on the move, needing access to a consistent, high-quality product anywhere in the world. That's where fractional ownership finds its sweet spot. This isn't just about having options. It's about strategic optimization. It's about a company looking at its travel patterns, its opportunity costs, and its strategic goals, and then selecting the right tool from the toolbox. The question is no longer, can we afford a private jet? The question is now, which model of private aviation gives us the greatest competitive advantage for the lowest possible cost? It has transformed an unimaginable luxury into a quantifiable strategic business tool. But this brings us to the elephant in the room, the one question that's probably been screaming in your mind this entire time. What does this all actually cost? We've talked about models and methods, but let's get down to brass tacks. Dollars and cents. How much for a fractional share? What's the real price of a 25-hour card? What does it truly cost to charter a jet from LA to Miami on a Tuesday afternoon? The answers are not what you expect. Because the true story isn't just about the price tag on the invoice. It's about the hidden value, the complex economics, and the surprising return on investment that makes a $20,000 flight one of the smartest checks a growing company can write. To understand that check, you have to stop thinking about money and start thinking about the one resource it can't buy more of: time. Every successful entrepreneur, every top-tier executive, eventually comes to the same brutal realization. The clock is the only true competitor. It's the one thing you can't negotiate with, the one asset you are guaranteed to run out of. And in the world of high-stakes business, the person who can manipulate, bend, and compress time is the person who wins. This isn't a luxury. This is a weapon. Let's run a simple, real-world experiment. Imagine a small, but rapidly growing manufacturing company based in Teterboro, New Jersey. They have a game-changing opportunity, a make-or-break meeting with a potential distributor in a suburb of Wichita, Kansas. The future of their company hinges on this single presentation. The CEO, the head of sales, and the lead engineer need to be there. Here's the journey on a commercial airline. The trip starts not at the airport but 2 hours before that. It's the drive through traffic to Newark Liberty International. Then, it's the hunt for long-term parking, the shuttle bus ride to the terminal. It's the slow, meandering snake of the TSA security line, unpacking laptops, removing belts and shoes. It's the wait at the gate, the fight for overhead bin space. Then, the inevitable delay on the tarmac. A direct flight from Newark to Wichita is rare, so they're looking at a layover, likely in Chicago or Dallas. That means deplaning, a frantic power walk across a sprawling terminal, and doing it all over again. By the time they land in Wichita, nearly 8 hours have passed since they left their office. But it's not over. They still have to wait for their checked bags, navigate the rental car center, and then drive another 40 minutes to their hotel. They arrive exhausted, frayed, and mentally drained. Their peak performance, the sharp-witted energy they needed for that crucial meeting, was spent navigating the soul-crushing logistics of modern air travel. The total door-to-door time for this one-way trip? Close to 10 hours. 10 hours of lost productivity, 10 hours of mounting stress. For 3 of the most critical people in their company, 30 man-hours evaporated. Now, let's rewind and run the same scenario with a private charter. The team leaves their office and drives 15 minutes to the local executive airport in Teterboro. There's no terminal, no security line. Their car pulls right up to the jet on the tarmac. Their luggage is taken from the trunk and loaded by the crew. They walk up a few steps, greet their pilot, and sit down in a quiet, comfortable cabin. Within 10 minutes of arriving at the airport, the jet is in the air. For the next 2.5 hours, the cabin becomes a flying boardroom. They're not crammed into seats, listening to announcements. They're connected to Wi-Fi, refining their presentation on a large screen, strategizing in complete privacy, and having a focused, uninterrupted conversation. They land not at the main Wichita airport, but at a smaller executive airfield just 10 minutes from the distributor's headquarters. A prearranged car is waiting for them, engine running on the tarmac. They step off the plane and into the car. The total door-to-door time? Under 3 hours. They arrive energized, prepared, and perfectly in sync. They haven't just saved 7 hours. They've converted 7 hours of grueling, unproductive travel time into 2.5 hours of highly focused strategic prep time. The difference isn't just about time saved, it's about the quality of that time. They didn't just get there faster, they arrived better. This is the fundamental calculation that is changing the game for American businesses. It's the shift from viewing travel as a cost center to viewing it as a strategic tool for time arbitrage. Let's quantify it. If a CEO's time, based on the value they create for their company, is worth $2,000 an hour, then a 7-hour saving is a $14,000 return right there. Now multiply that by the 3 executives on board. You're at $42,000 in reclaimed executive value, on a flight that might have cost $25,000. The trip has already paid for itself before the meeting has even started. But the true power goes far beyond a single trip. It's what this time-bending capability unlocks. With commercial airlines, a 3-city tour is a punishing 3-day ordeal. A meeting in Omaha on Tuesday, one in Denver on Wednesday, and a final pitch in Salt Lake City on Thursday. It's 3 days of hotels, rental cars, and airport lounges. With a private jet, that entire trip happens in a single day. A 9 a.m. meeting in Omaha, back in the air by 11 a.m. A 1 p.m. lunch meeting in Denver, wheels up by 3 p.m. A 5 p.m. final meeting in Salt Lake City. They are back home, sleeping in their own beds that same night. What was a 3-day drain on resources becomes a single hyper-productive day. The ability to increase the velocity of your business, to meet more clients, inspect more sites, and close more deals in the same amount of time, is the single greatest competitive advantage in today's economy. While your competitor is stuck in a security line in Dallas, you're shaking hands on your 3rd deal of the day. And this doesn't even touch on the intangible, yet critically important factors. The airplane cabin is a vault. It's one of the few places left where a leadership team can have a truly confidential conversation. You can discuss sensitive merger details, patent strategies, or proprietary financial data, without the risk of a competitor in seat 14B overhearing your entire game plan. It's a secure mobile office that allows work to continue at the highest levels. Furthermore, there's the human element. The constant grind of commercial travel leads to burnout. It strains families, degrades health, and crushes morale. An executive who arrives rested and focused is going to negotiate a better deal. A sales team that arrives energized is going to give a more compelling presentation. The return on investment isn't just measured in the deals you win, but in the talent you retain. Providing a tool that gives your key people their most valuable resource back, time with their families, time to think, time to rest, is an investment in the long-term health and success of the entire organization. So when you see that private jet on the tarmac, it's a mistake to see it as a symbol of excess. You should see it for what it truly is, a time machine. It's a tool meticulously designed to compress the unproductive gaps in a business day and expand the moments that actually matter. It's about converting wasted hours into strategic advantage. It's not about how much the flight costs, it's about how much the time is worth. And for a growing number of U.S. businesses, the answer is clear. They can't afford not to use it. Because this time machine doesn't just let them visit more cities. It gives them access to a map of opportunities their competitors don't even know exists. This map isn't made of paper and ink. It's a network of over 5,000 airstrips, private terminals, and regional airports scattered across the United States. To the commercial airline passenger, they are virtually invisible. The entire commercial network, the one that 99% of people use, serves only about 500 of these locations. That means for every one airport a commercial airline can take you to, there are 10 more that it can't. 10 times the access. 10 times the opportunity. Think about what that really means for a business. It means you are no longer constrained by the hub-and-spoke system designed for mass tourism. Your competitor, trying to visit a potential acquisition target, a specialized manufacturing plant in rural Nebraska, has to fly into Omaha, rent a car, and drive for 3 hours. They check into a hotel exhausted. The meeting is the next day. The whole trip takes 48 hours out of their week minimum. You, on the other hand, can fly directly into a small municipal airport just 10 minutes from that same factory. You leave in the morning, have the meeting over a productive lunch, tour the facility, shake hands on the preliminary terms, and you are back home in time for dinner with your family. Who do you think is going to build a better relationship? Who appears more committed, more serious, more capable? It's not just about saving time. It's about demonstrating a level of operational superiority that is, frankly, intimidating. You're not just visiting a location, you're making a statement. You're showing that distance is not an obstacle for your company. While your rivals are stuck navigating traffic and airport security lines, you're operating on a different plane of existence, literally and figuratively. You're tapping into a hidden geography of American commerce, reaching factories, suppliers, and untapped markets that are simply too inefficient for others to pursue. But the advantage goes far beyond just reaching remote locations. It's about what happens during the journey itself. Consider the most sensitive and high-stakes event in the corporate world: a merger or acquisition. These deals are worth millions, sometimes billions of dollars. They require absolute secrecy and intense collaboration between a company's top executives, its investment bankers, and its legal team. Now, try to prepare for a multi-billion-dollar negotiation on a commercial flight. The CEO is in seat 3A, the lead counsel is in 14B, and the CFO is stuck in 22C by the bathroom. You can't talk. You can't review sensitive documents. Every person around you is a potential leak. A stray comment, a glance at a laptop screen. It could be all it takes for a competitor or a news outlet to catch wind of the deal, sending stock prices into chaos and potentially killing the entire transaction. Now, picture the same team on a private jet. The cabin door closes and the aircraft becomes a secure mobile command center. It's a flying boardroom, a sealed vault at 40,000 feet. For the entire duration of the flight, the team can strategize face-to-face. They can spread out confidential papers, debate negotiating tactics, and align on their final offer, all in complete and total privacy. The flight isn't downtime, it's prep time. It's some of the most valuable, focused, and productive time of the entire M&A process. The cost of that charter flight, which might seem extravagant to an outsider, is an infinitesimal fraction of the deal's value. It's not an expense, it's an insurance policy. It's the cost of ensuring your most critical strategic conversations remain completely, unequivocally private. In the world of high-stakes corporate finance, privacy isn't a luxury. It's the entire foundation upon which deals are built. This ability to transform travel time into productive, secure work time is a game-changer. But the true power of private aviation often reveals itself not in planned meetings, but in unplanned crises. Business is unpredictable. A critical piece of machinery at your main production facility in North Carolina goes down, halting your entire assembly line. Every hour of downtime is costing you tens of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. The only engineers who can fix it are at your R&D center in California. What do? Trying to book 3 last-minute, cross-country commercial flights is a logistical nightmare. You might lose an entire day, maybe more. That's a day of bleeding cash, a day of missing customer deadlines, a day of damaging your company's reputation. With access to private aviation, the problem is solved differently. You make one call. Within 2 hours, a jet is waiting. Your top engineers are in the air, flying directly to the regional airport closest to your facility. They land, fix the problem, and the assembly line is running again before your competitor would have even finished booking their convoluted commercial flights. In this scenario, the jet isn't a form of transportation. It's a rapid deployment vehicle. It's the corporate fire truck you use to put out a blaze before it burns the company down. The cost of the flight is instantly dwarfed by the cost of the problem it solves. It's the same for a sudden client crisis. Your biggest customer, responsible for 20% of your annual revenue, is threatening to walk because of a service failure. Sending an email won't cut it. A Zoom call feels impersonal. But imagine being able to say, "We're on our way. We'll be in your office this afternoon to make this right." That action, that immediate physical presence, is often the only thing that can save a critical business relationship. It shows a level of commitment that words alone can never convey. And that leads to the final, perhaps most profound advantage, the human element. In a world dominated by digital communication, the power of a face-to-face handshake has never been greater. Bringing a potential 9-figure client to your headquarters for a final presentation isn't just about the meeting itself. It's about the entire experience. When you send a private aircraft to pick them up, you are communicating something powerful before they even step into your office. You're not saying, "Look how rich we are." You're saying, "Your time is the most valuable asset in this negotiation, and we respect it so much that we are going to eliminate every possible friction point for you." You remove the stress of airport lines, the indignity of security checks, the frustration of delays. You give them a quiet, comfortable space to prepare. You're not just buying a flight, you're buying goodwill. You're creating a shared, positive experience that frames the entire business relationship. It transforms a transactional negotiation into a partnership built on mutual respect. These companies aren't just buying flights. They're buying a strategic advantage that is almost impossible to compete with. But this raises a critical question. As this advantage becomes more accessible, what does it mean for the very nature of competition in America? And more importantly, how can a business, maybe even yours, begin to level the playing field? The answer, surprisingly, has less to do with deep pockets and more to do with a deep understanding of strategy. For decades, the world of private aviation was a fortress, its gates guarded by an astronomical price tag. The old playbook of business aviation had only one chapter: buy a jet. A $20, $40, even $60 million asset that required a full-time flight crew, hangar space, maintenance, and insurance. It was a commitment so colossal that only the absolute titans of industry, the Fortune 100, could even contemplate it. For everyone else, it wasn't just out of reach, it was on another planet. But that playbook is now obsolete. The fortress walls have been breached, not by a battering ram of new money, but by a series of clever, innovative business models that have systematically dismantled the barriers to entry. Think of it not as a single, insurmountable wall, but as a staircase to the sky. Each step represents a different level of access, commitment, and cost, allowing a business to engage with private aviation in a way that is precisely tailored to its needs and budget. This is the new reality, and it's how the playing field is being leveled, one flight at a time. The first step on this staircase, the most accessible entry point, is on-demand charter. This is the pay-as-you-go model of private flight. Essentially, you are renting an aircraft and crew for a specific trip. There are no upfront costs, no long-term commitments. You have a critical meeting in Omaha tomorrow morning? Your team needs to inspect a new site in a remote part of Texas? You can book a charter flight, sometimes with just a few hours' notice. Think of it as the Uber Black of the skies. You use an app or a broker, select your aircraft, and it's there when you need it. The advantage is ultimate flexibility. You can choose the exact right size jet for each mission, from a small turboprop for a short hop to a large cabin jet for a cross-country flight with your entire executive team. The downside, however, is variability. Prices can fluctuate wildly based on demand, aircraft availability, and even the direction of the flight. During peak seasons or major events, finding an aircraft can be a challenge, and the costs can spike. For a business that only needs private air travel 2 or 3 times a year for truly critical must-not-fail missions, on-demand charter is the perfect tool. It's a surgical instrument, used for maximum impact with minimal commitment. But what happens when a business's needs become more consistent? When the executive team is flying once or twice a month. That's when they ascend to the second step, jet cards. A jet card is exactly what it sounds like, a prepaid card for private flight. A company purchases a block of hours, typically 25, 50, or 100, on a specific category of aircraft. This is a subscription to speed. The primary benefit is predictability. With a jet card, you get fixed, predetermined hourly rates and guaranteed availability, often with as little as 24 hours notice. The logistical headache of sourcing a new charter for every trip disappears. The finance department loves it because the cost is known upfront, making budgeting far simpler. It's a move from the transactional nature of charter to a more strategic relationship with an aviation provider. For a rapidly growing tech firm that needs its sales engineers on site with potential clients across the country, a jet card is a force multiplier. It ensures their most valuable people are spending their time closing deals, not stuck in security lines. The upfront investment is more significant than a single charter, but it buys consistency, reliability, and peace of mind. As a company continues to grow, and its travel needs become even more demanding and integral to its operations, it may reach the third step, fractional ownership. This is where things get serious. Fractional ownership means you are no longer renting time. You are buying an actual ownership stake in a specific aircraft. You might buy a 1/16 share, which typically entitles you to 50 hours of flight time per year, or a 1/8 share for 100 hours. You now have most of the benefits of full ownership without the immense operational burden. You have an asset on your books, which can offer significant tax advantages like accelerated depreciation. You have access to an entire fleet of identical aircraft, so if your jet is down for maintenance, another is seamlessly swapped in. This is the country club of the clouds. You have a key to a multi-million-dollar asset, available whenever you need it, managed and maintained by a world-class operator. This is the solution for the established manufacturing company with multiple plants across North America, whose CEO and senior VPs need to be in 3 different states in a single day. The commitment is substantial, often lasting 5 years, and the capital outlay is significant. But for a business operating at this level, the return on investment isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in market share, operational efficiency, and competitive dominance. These 3 steps, charter, jet cards, and fractional ownership, represent the new ecosystem of private business aviation. They have created a flexible, scalable pathway for companies to access the single most powerful tool for leveraging their most valuable asset, time. The decision of which step to stand on is no longer about just raw revenue. It's a deeply strategic calculation. A business must analyze its mission profile. Are they flying a full team or just one executive? Are the destinations major hubs or remote airfields? Is the travel schedule predictable or erratic? The most forward-thinking companies are performing a new kind of audit. Not a financial audit, but a time audit. They calculate the true cost of commercial travel. They tally up the hours their highest-paid executives spend driving to airports, waiting in lounges, dealing with delays, and flying indirect routes. They multiply those lost hours by the executives' fully loaded compensation rates. Then they factor in the cost of overnight hotel stays that could be avoided, the burnout that saps productivity, and the mental fatigue that leads to poor decision-making. Suddenly, a $30,000 charter flight to visit 3 clients in one day doesn't look like an expense. It looks like an investment that generates a 6-figure return in efficiency and opportunity. This is the paradigm shift. It's moving the conversation from what does it cost to what does it create. It creates opportunity. It creates efficiency. It creates a corporate culture where the message from the top is clear. Your time is our most precious resource, and we will move heaven and earth to protect it and maximize its impact. The choice is no longer between flying commercial or buying a G5. The choice is a nuanced strategic decision about which tool to deploy from a versatile new arsenal. It's about matching the solution to the specific problem, whether that problem is closing a single game-changing deal or managing a sprawling continent-wide enterprise. And for businesses that get this calculation right, the sky is no longer the limit. It's the new highway. But even as thousands of American businesses begin to master this new playbook, the game itself is about to be fundamentally transformed. The technology that underpins this entire industry, the jet engine, the airframe, the very physics of flight, is standing on the precipice of a revolution. A revolution that promises to be as disruptive to private aviation as the internet was to communication. The models we've just discussed, the very staircase to the sky, might soon become relics of a bygone era. What happens when the cost of entry plummets further? When the speed of travel doubles? And when the very definition of a private aircraft is completely rewritten? The answer to these questions isn't found in science fiction. It's being prototyped in hangars and coded in simulations right now. The future of private business travel is a 3-act play, and the curtain is already rising on the first act. The radical democratization of the sky. Forget everything you know about airports. Forget runways, taxiing, and even the iconic shape of a jet. Instead, imagine a fleet of electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft or eVTOLs. Think of them less as mini-jets and more as the Ubers of the sky. Companies like Joby Aviation, Archer, and Whisk Aero aren't just building concepts. They are deep into certification with the FAA, backed by billions from investors and giants like United Airlines and Boeing. Their vision is to turn the rooftop of your office building into a terminal. Why does this plummet the cost? Because complexity is expensive. A modern jet engine has tens of thousands of moving parts, requiring meticulous, costly maintenance. The distributed electric propulsion systems on these eVTOLs have a fraction of that. They're quieter, meaning they can operate from city centers without the noise complaints that plague traditional airports. And they run on electricity, which is vastly cheaper and more price-stable than jet fuel. For business, this isn't an incremental improvement. It's a paradigm shift. Imagine a team of architects based in Manhattan needing to inspect a construction site in the Philadelphia suburbs. Today, that's a grueling half-day affair involving traffic, trains, and rental cars. In the near future, it's an app summon, an elevator ride to the roof, and a 30-minute flight, arriving directly on site. The cost isn't that of a private charter. It's closer to a premium car service. This technology unlocks a level of regional agility that was previously the exclusive domain of Fortune 50 CEOs. The time saved isn't just a convenience. It's billable hours reclaimed, more client meetings per day, and a competitive edge sharpened to a razor's point. The very map of business begins to warp, with cities and suburbs in a 100-mile radius becoming a single interconnected megacampus. But what about crossing continents? What about global business? This brings us to the second act, the return of speed. For 50 years we've been stuck in a speed plateau. A flight from New York to London takes about 7 hours, the same as it did in the 1970s. We actually went backward when the Concorde was retired. But that's about to change. Enter companies like Boom Supersonic. They aren't just reviving an old idea. They are re-engineering it for the 21st century. Their Overture jet is designed to fly at Mach 1.7, more than twice the speed of today's fastest commercial airliners. But critically, they are solving the two problems that grounded the Concorde: cost and noise. By utilizing advanced carbon composites and designing for 100% sustainable aviation fuel, they are slashing the operating economics. And through sophisticated aerodynamic modeling, they are engineering an aircraft that creates a sonic thump over land, rather than a window-shattering sonic boom, potentially opening up overland supersonic routes for the first time. The implications are staggering. A 3.5-hour flight from New York to London, 5 hours from San Francisco to Tokyo. This isn't just about saving time. It's about fundamentally changing the nature of a business day. A dealmaker in Los Angeles can attend a morning board meeting in Tokyo and be home for a late dinner. The logistical barrier of the Pacific Ocean simply evaporates. It means a company's top talent can be physically present for critical negotiations on 2 continents in the same 24-hour period. This isn't a luxury, it's a weapon. In a world of high-stakes M&A, patent filings, and international relations, the ability to move key personnel faster than your competition is an incalculable advantage. And if you think that's the limit, companies like Hermes are already developing hypersonic aircraft, aiming for Mach 5, New York to Paris in 90 minutes. This is the ultimate compression of time and space, turning our vast planet into a tightly knit network of global cities. This leads us to the third and final act, where the very definition of a private aircraft is completely rewritten. This is the convergence. Imagine combining the on-demand electric accessibility of an eVTOL with the intercontinental speed of a supersonic jet. Now, remove the most expensive and often most variable component, the pilot. Autonomous flight is the final frontier. While a fully pilotless passenger jet is still a ways off, the building blocks are being laid with every advance in fly-by-wire technology and AI. The first steps will be single-pilot operations in cargo, then in private jets, and eventually full autonomy. When this happens, the entire economic model is upended. An aircraft is no longer a static asset that a company owns or a service it charters. It becomes a fluid, dynamic node in a global transportation network. Your business won't own a jet. It will subscribe to a service. An AI-powered logistics engine will know your executive team's calendar. It will know a critical meeting just popped up in Zurich. It will autonomously dispatch an eVTOL to your office, fly you to a supersonic hub, transfer you to a hypersonic craft for the transatlantic leg, and have another eVTOL ready in Zurich to take you to the front door of your meeting. The entire journey is seamless, optimized for speed and efficiency, and executed by a network of autonomous machines. The term private jet will become an anachronism. It will be replaced by private mobility. It's the shift from owning a car to using a ride-sharing service, but applied to the third dimension and accelerated to the speed of sound. This future dissolves the last remaining frictions of global business. Supply chains can be managed in person in real time. A company's talent pool is no longer regional or even national. It is the entire planet. The very concept of a central corporate headquarters may become obsolete, replaced by a distributed network of talent that can converge anywhere, anytime, in a matter of hours. So why are more US businesses choosing private jet travel? The answer we started with, time efficiency control, is still true, but it's the seed of a much larger story. They are investing not just in the jets of today, but in the ecosystem of tomorrow. They are buying a stake in a future where distance is irrelevant, and the only currency that matters is speed. The evolution from propeller planes to the Gulfstream G700 was a linear progression. What comes next is an exponential leap. It's a future where the distinction between a car ride and a flight blurs, where continents feel like neighboring states, and where the power of a business is measured not by its physical footprint, but by the speed at which it can project its influence across the globe. The sky, for so long a symbol of freedom and luxury, is being reforged into the ultimate tool of business. A digital, electric, and supersonic ledger of opportunity. The question is no longer if your business will take to the private skies, but in what form, and how high you're willing to climb.